The phone call came at 6:47 in the morning. I know because I was staring at the clock, already awake, already dressed in my navy pantsuit for the retirement party. 37 years teaching English at Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis, and today they were finally letting me go with a gold-plated pen and a sheet cake from Costco. Mom, don't open the folder on the kitchen table. Please, I'm coming over right now. My daughter Lisa's voice cracked through the phone, not the confident, controlled tone she usually used with me. This was panic, raw and desperate. I'd already seen the folder, tan manila, the kind I used to use for grading essays. It sat next to my coffee mug, placed there sometime during the night while I slept. Someone had been in my house. Lisa, what is this? I kept my voice level, the same tone I used when catching students cheating, calm but leaving no room for excuses. Mom, just wait. Derek and I need to explain. It's not what you think. I hung up. My hands were steady as I opened the folder. Inside were documents, legal documents, a purchase agreement for my house, dated 2 weeks ago, with my signature forged at the bottom, a brochure for Meadowbrook Senior Living, with a unit circled in red pen and a note, all inclusive, much better for you, and a typed letter on my daughter's law firm letterhead explaining that the sale of my home would fund a trust for my grandchildren's education, with Lisa and Derek as trustees. They were selling my house, the house I'd bought with my late husband 28 years ago, the house where I raised Lisa, where Tom died in the upstairs bedroom from cancer, where every floorboard and paint color held a memory I'd chosen. And they'd already started the process, without asking, without telling me. I sat down at my kitchen table, the same scarred oak table where Lisa had done her homework, where Tom and I had paid bills and argued over wallpaper samples. I pressed my palms flat against the wood and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not sadness, not shock, rage, pure, clarifying rage that burned through the fog of being reasonable that I'd lived in since Tom died 12 years ago. The fog of, I don't want to be a burden. The fog of, they're just trying to help. I called my friend Janet, a real estate attorney I'd known since we were both starting out in our 20s, me in teaching, her in law school. Janet, I need you to come to my retirement party today, and I need you to bring paperwork. I'm about to do something that will either be the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever done. She didn't ask questions. I'll be there at 2. Wear red lipstick. You always win arguments when you wear red lipstick. I looked at the clock. 8 hours until the party. 8 hours to decide if I was really going to do this, to blow up my relationship with my only daughter in front of the entire school district, her colleagues, my former students. 8 hours to decide if I was finally going, to stop being sorry. I made a fresh pot of coffee and sat down to plan. People think teaching is easy. Summers off, 3 p.m. dismissal, reading books all day. They have no idea. I started at Roosevelt in 1986, fresh out of graduate school, 25 years old and terrified. Tom had just gotten his job as an accountant. We'd bought this house, a small 2-bedroom bungalow in South Minneapolis, stretching every dollar. I was making $18,000 a year. My first day, I had a classroom of 32 sophomores, half of them bigger than me, all of them testing to see if I'd break. By third period, someone had written, "Miss Chen sucks," on the board in permanent marker. By fifth period, I'd confiscated a knife. I cried in the supply closet during lunch. Then I washed my face, reapplied my lipstick, and went back in. That was 37 years ago. I learned to love those kids, even the ones who hated me, even the ones who threw erasers at my head and called me names I won't repeat. I learned to see past the anger to the scared teenager underneath. The kid who couldn't read past a 6th grade level, the girl who came to school with bruises, the boy who slept through class because he worked midnight shift at the factory. I gave everything to that job. Nights grading papers until my eyes burned, weekends at the school, decorating my classroom, organizing the book drive, chaperoning dances, summers taking extra courses to keep my teaching license current, attending workshops on my own dime. When Lisa was born, I took 6 weeks maternity leave and came back early because we needed the money. Tom's salary was decent, but not enough. Not for a mortgage, daycare, student loans. So I taught summer school. I tutored on weekends. I picked up every extra duty that came with a stipend. I remember the year Lisa was 7. It was December, Christmas coming, and she wanted a bike. A purple bike with streamers on the handlebars. It cost $89. I didn't have $89, so I took on an extra section of remedial English for the spring semester. 15 more students, 15 more sets of essays to grade. I bought the bike. Lisa cried when she opened it Christmas morning. Tom squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "You're amazing." I thought I was doing the right thing, sacrificing so my daughter could have what I never did growing up as the daughter of immigrants who worked in a restaurant 18 hours a day. I thought I was showing her what love looked like. Instead, I was teaching her that my time, my energy, my boundaries didn't matter. That she could take, and I would always give more. When Tom got sick, everything got worse. Cancer, fast and brutal. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, diagnosed on a Tuesday, dead by February. He was 53. Lisa was 23, just finishing law school. The medical bills were catastrophic. Insurance covered most of it, but not all. Not the experimental treatment, not the second opinions, not the at-home nursing care he needed at the end. I refinanced the house. I cashed out my small 403B. I borrowed from my parents, and I kept teaching. Through it all, I kept teaching. Because what else could I do? We needed my insurance. We needed my income. And honestly, standing in front of those kids every day was the only thing keeping me sane. After Tom died, Lisa moved back home for 6 months. I was grateful. The house felt too empty, too full of ghosts. She'd met Derek by then, another lawyer, ambitious and smooth in a way that made me uneasy. But Lisa loved him, so I smiled and asked polite questions about his firm, his family, his plans. They married a year later. I paid for the wedding, $28,000 I didn't have. I took out a personal loan, told Lisa it was fine, that I'd been saving. She believed me, or she wanted to believe me. I'm not sure which is worse. After that, the requests came steady. Can you watch the kids while we go to Vegas? Can you lend us the down payment for the new house? Can you cover the lease on Derek's new car just until his bonus comes through? Every time, I said yes. I said yes because I loved my daughter. I said yes because I didn't want to be the nagging mother, the difficult mother, the mother who caused problems. I said yes because some small, scared part of me believed that if I said no, I'd lose her completely. But saying yes came with a cost. I never took the trip to Ireland I'd dreamed of since I was a girl. I never renovated the kitchen like Tom and I had planned. I drove a 15-year-old Honda with duct tape on the seat. I bought my clothes at Target and ate oatmeal for dinner more often than I'd like to admit. My retirement account was a joke. 37 years of teaching, and I had maybe $140,000 saved. Teachers' pensions in Minnesota are decent, but not great. I'd be living carefully, watching every dollar. But I had my house. The house was paid off. It was mine, free and clear. The one thing I'd protected, the one anchor in a life that had been storm-tossed since Tom died. Until this morning, sitting at my kitchen table, looking at the forged documents, I finally understood what I'd done. I hadn't been generous. I'd been afraid of being alone, afraid of being unwanted, afraid that without my usefulness, I had no value. And Lisa had learned exactly what I taught her, that I was something to be used. I stood up and walked to my bedroom. In the back of my closet, buried under old sweaters, was a shoebox. Inside were letters. Letters Tom had written me during our courtship when he was doing his internship in Chicago and I was finishing my degree in Minneapolis. I pulled out one at random and read, "Margaret, you are the strongest person I know. You don't see it, but I do. You walk into a room and people pay attention not because you demand it, but because you have something real to say. Don't ever let anyone make you small. Not even me, especially not me." I folded the letter carefully and put it back. Tom would have hated what I'd become. Not the teacher, not the mother, but the woman who apologized for existing, who made herself small to fit into other people's comfort. I was done being small. By 10 a.m., I had everything I needed. First, I called the title company listed on the forged purchase agreement. A pleasant woman named Sandra answered. I explained, in my calmest teacher voice, that documents were circulating with my forged signature, and I wanted to officially notify them that any sale of my property was fraudulent. Sandra's voice went from pleasant to alarmed in about 3 seconds. "Ma'am, I'm going to transfer you to our fraud department immediately." I spent 45 minutes on the phone with their legal team. They took my statement, verified my identity, and assured me the sale would be blocked. They also mentioned, delicately, that forgery was a criminal offense and I might want to contact the police. I thanked them and hung up. Then I called Janet back. "I need you to prepare a cease and desist letter addressed to Lisa and Derek. Effective immediately, they are not to contact me about any financial matters, property decisions, or personal arrangements without my explicit written consent." Janet was quiet for a moment. "Margaret, are you sure? This is your daughter." "I know exactly who she is. That's why I'm doing this." "Okay, I'll have it ready by the party. Anything else?" I took a breath. "Yes, I want to change my will. Everything goes to the scholarship fund at Roosevelt. Not a penny to Lisa unless she can demonstrate, in writing, that she's undergone therapy and can articulate what she did wrong. And I want power of attorney documents drawn up. If anything happens to me, you're in charge, not Lisa." I heard Janet exhale. "You're really doing this." "I'm really doing this." Next, I called my principal, Susan, who'd been organizing the retirement party. "Susan, I need a favor. I need 5 minutes to speak before the cake cutting. No questions asked." Susan laughed. "Margaret, it's your party. You can do whatever you want, though you're making me nervous." "Don't be nervous. Just make sure the microphone is working." The last call was the hardest. I called my granddaughter Emma, who was 17, old enough to understand, young enough that maybe I could salvage something. "Grandma, why are you calling? Aren't you getting ready for your party?" "Emma, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting. Can you do that for me?" Okay." I told her everything. The forged documents, the sale attempt, the years of money I'd loaned that was never repaid. I laid it out clearly, calmly, like I was teaching a difficult text. Emma was quiet for a long time when I finished. Then, "Grandma, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "I believe you, sweetheart, but I need you to understand something. What your parents tried to do today was wrong. Legally wrong, morally wrong. I'm going to address it publicly this afternoon. It's going to be uncomfortable. Your parents are going to be very angry with me. I want you to know why I'm doing it. Because you deserve respect." Emma's voice was small, but firm. My throat tightened. Yes, because I deserve respect. And because if I don't stand up now, I'm teaching you that it's okay to let people treat you this way. I don't want that for you. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, honey. More than you know. I hung up and sat in the silence of my house, the house they'd tried to take, the house where I'd built my life, where I'd buried my husband, where I'd raised my child. I looked at the clock. 3 more hours. I went upstairs and got dressed properly. Not the navy pantsuit I'd originally chosen, meant to blend in, meant to be invisible. Instead, I pulled out a dress I'd bought 5 years ago for Lisa's law firm party and never worn. Deep red, fitted, with a high neck and 3/4 sleeves. Professional but striking. I put on makeup, real makeup, not just the tinted moisturizer I usually wore. Foundation, blush, eyeliner, and red lipstick. Tom's favorite shade, the one I used to wear when we went dancing before life got hard. I looked at myself in the mirror. Not an old woman being put out to pasture. A woman who'd fought for 37 years and wasn't done fighting yet. I smiled. Let them try to silence me now. The school auditorium was already filling up when I arrived at 1:30. Susan had really gone all out. Decorations everywhere, a table with refreshments, poster boards covered with photos from my decades at Roosevelt. I saw myself in those pictures, young and then not so young, surrounded by students, cutting ribbon at book fairs, receiving awards. Had I really been that person? When did I stop being her? "Margaret, you look absolutely stunning." Susan rushed over, slightly frazzled. "The mayor's office sent a proclamation. Channel 5 wants to film a segment. And oh my God, half your former students are here. I had no idea you'd impacted so many lives." I looked around. She was right. I recognized faces, now adult faces, people I'd taught 15, 20 years ago. They'd come back, for me. A young man approached, tall, confident, well-dressed. It took me a moment to place him. "Miss Chen, I don't know if you remember me. Marcus Williams. You taught me sophomore and junior year." I did remember. Marcus had come into my class angry at the world, barely literate, headed for dropping out. I'd stayed after school with him 3 days a week for 2 years, teaching him to read properly, helping him see that words could be power. "Marcus, of course I remember. Look at you." He grinned. "I'm an attorney now. Just made partner at Hennepin County Public Defender's Office. I wanted you to know everything good in my life traces back to your classroom. You didn't give up on me when everyone else had." My eyes stung. "I'm so proud of you." "I'm proud of you too, Ms. Chen. You changed my life." He moved on, and others approached. A woman who was now a doctor, a man who taught at the university, a young mother who'd brought her kids to meet me. Story after story of lives I'd touched, directions I'd changed, doors I'd opened. And standing in the back corner watching with cold eyes were Lisa and Derek. They'd dressed for the occasion, too. Lisa in a black designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Derek and Brooks brothers, hair gelled, watching me like I was a witness he was about to cross-examine. Lisa started toward me, but I turned away. Not yet, not until I was ready. Janet appeared at my elbow, a thin folder in her hand. All set. Cease and desist letter. New will documentation, power of attorney. Say the word and I'll serve her right here. After my speech, I said quietly. Susan tapped the microphone. "Can everyone take a seat? We're about to begin." The crowd settled. I saw former colleagues, current teachers, students past and present. The local news camera in the back. Lisa and Derek sliding into seats near the front, Lisa's face arranged in a dutiful daughter smile. Susan went through the formalities, thanked everyone for coming, read the proclamation from the mayor's office, showed a video montage of my teaching career set to some sentimental song that made half the room tear up. Then, and now, the woman of the hour, Margaret Chen, would like to say a few words. I stood, walked to the podium, adjusted the microphone, looked out at the sea of faces, and began. Thank you all for being here. When I woke up this morning, I thought today would be about looking back, about celebrating 37 years of teaching, of touching lives, of making a small difference in this world. I paused, letting the moment settle. Instead, this morning became about something else entirely. It became about truth. I saw Lisa stiffen in her seat. Derek leaned forward slightly, his lawyer instincts kicking in. For those of you who don't know, I'm a widow. My husband Tom died 12 years ago. Since then, I've lived alone in the house we bought together, the house we raised our daughter in. It's been my anchor, my home, the place where Tom's memory lives in every room. Heads nodded sympathetically. This was the expected narrative, the sad widow story everyone knew. This morning, I discovered that my daughter and son-in-law have been forging legal documents to sell my house without my knowledge or consent. The room went dead silent. I heard someone gasp. They prepared a purchase agreement with my forged signature. They selected a senior living facility for me, circled the unit they'd chosen, and wrote a note explaining that I'd be much better off there. They planned to announce this sale today, at this celebration, as if it were a gift. Lisa shot to her feet. Mom, that's not. You're misunderstanding. Sit down, Lisa. My voice was cold, sharp, the voice I used to break up fights in the hallway. She sat. I continued. The proceeds from this forced sale were to fund a trust for my grandchildren's education, with my daughter and son-in-law as trustees. On the surface, that sounds noble. Grandchildren's education. Who could object to that? I pulled the folder from beneath the podium and held it up. But here's what makes this particularly cruel. Over the past 12 years, I have given my daughter and son-in-law over $200,000. I paid for their wedding. I loaned them down payment money for their house, never repaid. I've provided free childcare 3 to 4 days a week for years. I've given and given and given, often at the expense of my own financial security, because I believe that's what mothers do. The room was riveted. I saw a reporter from Channel 5 frantically taking notes. I never asked for repayment. I never kept score. I did it out of love. But somewhere along the way, that love became an expectation, then an entitlement, and finally, this morning, it became theft. Derek stood now. This is slander. You're damaging our reputations. Sit down, counselor. Janet's voice rang out from the side. Or I'll have you removed for disrupting a private event. He sat, jaw clenched. I took a breath. I've spent my entire adult life teaching young people that words matter, that truth matters, that integrity means something. Today, I'm living that lesson. I looked directly at Lisa. Her face was pale, tears streaming down her cheeks. But I wasn't done. I've been a coward. For 12 years, I've been so afraid of losing my daughter, so afraid of being alone, that I let her take and take until there was almost nothing left of me. I let her treat me not as a person, but as a resource to be managed and eventually disposed of. My voice caught, but I pushed through. This morning, I called the title company and blocked the sale. I filed a fraud report with the authorities. And as of this afternoon, I'm enacting legal boundaries with my daughter and son-in-law. No contact about financial matters, no access to my property, no assumption that my life is theirs to manage. Lisa stood again, her voice breaking. Mom, please, you're humiliating us. We can talk about this privately. No. The word came out like a gunshot. We can't talk about this privately because we've tried that. I've tried to have conversations, tried to set gentle boundaries, and every time you've steamrolled over them. So now we're having this conversation publicly, with witnesses, so there's no confusion about what happened here. I turned back to the broader crowd. I'm telling you all this not to hurt my daughter, though I'm sure it does hurt, and maybe it should. I'm telling you this because I know I'm not alone. I know there are others in this room, other teachers, other mothers, other people who have given everything to their children and watched that generosity become entitlement. Nods throughout the crowd. A woman in the third row was crying. I want you to know it's okay to stop. It's okay to say I've given enough. It's okay to draw a line and say my life, my home, my dignity are not negotiable. I looked back at Lisa one more time. I love you. I will always love you. But I will not let you do this to me. And until you can understand why what you did was wrong, until you can take genuine responsibility without excuses or justifications, we will have no relationship beyond what the law requires. Janet stepped forward and handed me a manila envelope. I walked down from the podium, directly to Lisa and Derek. You've been served. Cease and desist. These are my legal boundaries. If you violate them, I'll seek a restraining order. Lisa took the envelope with shaking hands. Mascara ran down her face. I can't believe you're doing this. I'm your daughter. Yes, I said quietly. And I'm your mother. I deserved better than this. I turned and walked toward the exit. The room erupted behind me, voices overlapping, chaos spreading. But I didn't turn around. Susan caught me in the hallway. Margaret, my God. I'm sorry for disrupting the party. Are you kidding? It was the most powerful thing I've ever witnessed. Are you okay? I thought about it. Was I okay? Yes, I said slowly. For the first time in 12 years, I'm actually okay. The first 3 days were the hardest. My phone rang constantly. Lisa, Derek, their friends, their families, all calling to yell, plead, or explain why I'd misunderstood everything. I blocked most of the numbers. The ones I didn't block, I let go to voicemail. I listened to exactly one message. It was from Lisa's mother-in-law, Sandra, a woman I'd always found cold. Margaret, I just want to say that what you did was cruel and unnecessary. Lisa is devastated. She was only trying to help you, to make sure you were cared for in your old age, and you've turned it into this public spectacle. I hope you're proud of yourself. I deleted it and added her number to the block list. But there were other calls, too. Good calls. Marcus, my former student, called to offer legal support if I needed it. Pro bono, Ms. Chen. You stood up for me once. My turn. 3 other former students reached out with similar offers. One worked in elder law. One was a financial planner. One was a therapist specializing in family dynamics. You've got a whole team now, Ms. Chen, Marcus said when we had coffee that Saturday. We're not letting anyone mess with you. The news coverage was intense. Channel 5 ran a story titled, Beloved Teacher Confronts Elder Financial Abuse. It went viral. Within 48 hours, I had producers from Good Morning America calling, asking if I'd be willing to share my story nationally. I said yes, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just my story. The emails started pouring in, hundreds of them, from other teachers, nurses, social workers, mostly women in their 50s and 60s, all telling similar stories of adult children who saw them as ATMs or burdens to be managed. I've given my son $50,000 over 10 years, and he just asked for more to buy a boat. My daughter moved me out of my house while I was on vacation and sold all my furniture. I'm 68 and still working because I gave my retirement to my kids and now have nothing. Every story broke my heart. Every story also made me angrier. This wasn't just about me and Lisa. This was about a culture that taught mothers our only value was in what we could provide, and when we could no longer provide enough, we became disposable. Janet came over that Saturday evening with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. "You're famous," she said, unpacking containers. "My firm's phone has been ringing off the hook. Turns out there's a huge untapped market in elder protection law. Are you saying my family drama is good for business?" "I'm saying your courage is helping other people find their courage." She poured 2 glasses. "How are you really doing?" I thought about it. I miss her. I miss Lisa, or at least the Lisa I thought she was. I keep wanting to call her, to fix it somehow. But I can't fix it. She has to fix it. And I don't know if she will. Janet raised her glass. "To boundaries." "To boundaries," I echoed. We drank, and I felt something settle in my chest. Not peace exactly, but rightness. The following Monday, I woke up to find an email from Emma. "Grandma, can we talk? Not about Mom and Dad, about you. I want to understand." We met at a coffee shop near her school. She looked nervous, picking at her muffin, not meeting my eyes. "Your mom told you not to see me," I said gently. "Yeah. She said you've had some kind of breakdown, that you're not thinking clearly, that we need to give you space until you calm down." "And what do you think?" Emma finally looked up. "I think you're the clearest I've ever seen you. And I think Mom's scared because she knows she messed up." My throat tightened. "Emma, I need you to understand something. What happened between me and your parents, that's between us. You don't have to choose sides. But you chose a side, Grandma. You chose yourself. And honestly, I think that's kind of badass." I laughed, surprised. "Language. You're not my teacher anymore. I can say badass." She grinned, then sobered. "I've been thinking about it a lot, about how Mom talks about you. It's always, Mom will watch the kids. Mom will help with the money. Mom won't mind. Never let's ask Mom what she wants. Your mother loves me. I know. But she loves you like you're a thing, not a person. Does that make sense?" It made perfect sense, and hearing it from my 17-year-old granddaughter broke something open in me. "Emma, you are wise beyond your years." "I had a good teacher." She reached across and took my hand. "I'm still going to see you. I don't care what Mom says. You're my grandma, and I love you." That night, I cried for the first time since the retirement party. Not sad tears, relief tears, because at least one relationship had survived. At least one person in my family still saw me as human. 2 weeks after the retirement party, I did something I hadn't done in 37 years. I slept past 6 a.m. No alarm, no schedule, no papers to grade. I woke up at 9:30 to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window, birds singing outside, and the profound disorientation of having absolutely nothing I had to do. It was terrifying and wonderful. I made coffee slowly, standing at the kitchen window, watching my neighbors head off to work. My body didn't know what to do with rest. Every instinct screamed that I should be productive, useful, earning my existence. Instead, I sat on my back porch with a novel I'd been meaning to read for 3 years, and just read. By noon, I'd finished it. By 2 p.m., I'd started another. When was the last time I'd read for pleasure? Really read, losing myself in someone else's words, with no timer ticking, no lesson plan to prepare. I couldn't remember. That evening, I called my friend Helen, who'd retired from teaching 5 years earlier. "Helen, how did you do it? How did you figure out who you were after teaching?" She laughed. "Oh, honey, I'm still figuring it out. But here's what I learned. You have to grieve first. You're not just leaving a job, you're leaving an identity. I feel like I don't know who I am without a classroom. That's normal. Give it time. Try things. Make a mess. You've spent 4 decades shaping other people's lives. Now you get to shape your own." So I started trying things. I joined a book club at the local library, full of retired teachers and librarians who argued about symbolism and character development with the same intensity I remembered from graduate school seminars. I signed up for a watercolor class at the community center. I was terrible at it. My trees looked like green blobs. My skies ran into muddy gray. But the instructor, a kind woman named Patricia, said, "Margaret, you're thinking too much. Stop trying to control the paint. Let it do what it wants." Let it do what it wants. What a concept. I started walking every morning, not for exercise, but just to move. Through my neighborhood, past the lake, watching the seasons change from late spring into summer. I saw things I'd never noticed before. The way light hit the water at different times of day. The old oak tree that must have been there 100 years. The small community garden where volunteers tended vegetables. One morning I stopped at the garden. A woman about my age, wearing dirt-stained overalls and a wide-brimmed hat, looked up and smiled. "Can I help you?" "I was just watching. It's beautiful." "Thanks. We've been working on it for 3 years, trying to grow fresh produce for the neighborhood food shelf." She stood, wiping her hands. "I'm Grace." "Margaret." "You ever gardened, Margaret?" "Not really. My husband used to, but after he died, I let it go." Grace studied me for a moment, then grabbed a spare pair of gloves. "Come on. I'll show you the tomatoes. They're just starting to set fruit." I spent 2 hours that morning on my knees in the dirt, learning to stake tomato plants and pull weeds. My back ached. My knees protested. I got sunburned across my nose. It was the best I'd felt in months. I started volunteering 3 mornings a week. Grace and the other gardeners welcomed me into their crew. We worked in companionable silence mostly, sometimes sharing stories, sometimes just existing together in the sun. One day, as we were harvesting lettuce, Grace asked, "You hear about that teacher who publicly called out her daughter for trying to steal her house?" I kept my eyes on the lettuce. I might have heard something about it. Brave woman. I have a daughter, too. Love her to death, but she treats me like a piggy bank, thinks my pension is her inheritance. I looked up. Grace was watching me, knowing in her eyes. "That was you, wasn't it? The teacher." No point in lying. "Yes," she nodded slowly. "Thought so. You've got that look, like you just survived a war." She pulled another head of lettuce. "How are you holding up?" "Some days better than others. Today's a good day." "Today you're growing food. Hard to have a bad day when you're growing food." She was right. Through the garden, I met other people. Retirees mostly, but also young families, people with disabilities, recent immigrants. We traded recipes, shared gardening tips, celebrated small victories like the first ripe tomato or the zucchini that got away and grew to the size of a baseball bat. Nobody asked about my past. Nobody cared that I'd been a teacher, that I had a master's degree, that I'd won awards. They cared that I showed up, that I pulled my weight, that I could tell a good joke while weeding. It was the most anonymous I'd been in decades, and it was liberating. One afternoon in late June, I came home from the garden, dirty and tired and happy, to find a car in my driveway. Not Lisa's car, a car I didn't recognize. A young woman stood on my porch looking nervous. late 20s, stylishly dressed, holding a briefcase. "Can I help you?" I kept my distance, suddenly aware I was alone and covered in dirt. "Miss Chen, I'm Rachel Park. I'm a producer with the Today Show. We'd love to have you on to talk about elder financial abuse and setting boundaries with adult children." I blinked. "The Today Show? The actual Today Show?" She smiled. "Yes, ma'am. Your story resonated with a lot of people. We think it's an important conversation that needs to happen nationally." I looked down at my dirt-stained clothes, then back at her. "Can you give me a minute to process this and maybe wash my hands?" She laughed. "Of course. Take all the time you need." I invited her in, excused myself to clean up, and spent 5 minutes in the bathroom staring at my reflection. The Today Show. National television. Millions of people would hear my story. Was I ready for that? I thought about the emails still coming in, about the woman at the grocery store last week who'd grabbed my hand and whispered, "Thank you. You gave me the courage to stand up to my son." About Emma, who was learning that boundaries weren't cruelty. I washed my face, changed my shirt, and went back downstairs. "Tell me more," I said to Rachel. The Today Show appearance was scheduled for 3 weeks later. They flew me to New York, put me up in a hotel near Rockefeller Center, and assigned me a producer who walked me through what to expect. "We'll do a pre-interview the day before," Rachel explained over coffee in the hotel restaurant, "just to get comfortable with the questions. Then the live segment is about 8 minutes. The host will be Craig. He's wonderful, very warm. 8 minutes to explain 37 years of teaching and 12 years of boundary violations. We'll focus on the key moments, the forged documents, the retirement party confrontation, and what you want other people in similar situations to know." I spent that evening in my hotel room, rehearsing answers, trying to distill everything into sound bites. But every time I practiced, it felt false, like I was performing grief instead of living it. Finally, I called Janet. "I don't know if I can do this. Every time I try to explain it in neat little segments, it feels like I'm betraying the truth. It wasn't neat. It was messy and complicated, and I was complicit for years." "So say that," Janet said simply. "Don't try to be perfect. Just be honest. That's what people responded to in the first place. Your honesty." The next morning, I walked into the studio for the pre-interview. Craig met me in the green room, casual in jeans and a button-down. Nothing like the polished persona I'd seen on TV. "Margaret, thanks for doing this. I know it's not easy to talk about family stuff publicly." "It's terrifying, actually." He smiled. "Good. That means you're human. Look, I'm not here to ambush you or make you look bad. I'm a dad. I have aging parents. This stuff hits close to home for a lot of people. I just want to have a real conversation." The pre-interview went well. He asked gentle questions, gave me space to think, didn't push when I got emotional talking about Tom. The live segment the next morning was harder. Sitting on that couch, looking at the cameras, knowing millions of people were watching, I felt every one of my 62 years. My hands shook. My mouth went dry. Then Craig asked his first question. "Margaret, you taught high school English for 37 years. When you woke up on your retirement day, what did you think the day would be about?" And suddenly, it was easy, because I wasn't talking to cameras. I was talking to Craig, human to human, the way I'd talked to students for decades. I thought it would be about closure, about celebrating a career and moving into the next phase of life. Instead, it became about fighting for my right to have a next phase of life at all. I told the story simply. The forged documents, the years of financial exploitation disguised as family obligation, the moment I decided to speak publicly instead of privately. Some people have criticized you for humiliating your daughter publicly, Craig said. What do you say to that? I'd prepared for this question. But in the moment, a different answer came. I say that private conversations don't work when one person refuses to hear. I'd spent 12 years trying to set boundaries quietly, trying not to make waves, trying to be the good mother who never complained. And every time I was dismissed, ignored, or made to feel guilty for even trying. Public accountability was the only option I had left. Do you think you and your daughter will reconcile? I paused, feeling the weight of that question. I hope so. But reconciliation requires two things: genuine remorse and changed behavior. Not just, I'm sorry you're upset, but I understand what I did wrong and here's how I'll do better. Until I see that from Lisa, we can't move forward. And that's heartbreaking, but it's also necessary. After the segment aired, my phone exploded. Again, messages from people across the country, all telling similar stories. The retired nurse whose son had stolen her identity to open credit cards. The former principal whose daughters had convinced her to sign over her house for estate planning purposes, and then evicted her. The widow whose stepchildren had cleaned out her bank accounts the day after her husband's funeral. Story after story after story. That afternoon, sitting in the airport waiting for my flight back to Minneapolis, I got a call from an unknown number. Ms. Chen, this is Dr. Sarah Martinez from the Ewate ARP Foundation. We've been working on elder financial abuse prevention for years, but we've struggled to get media attention. Your story changed that. Would you be willing to work with us as an advocate? I'm not an expert. I'm just someone who got tired of being victimized. That's exactly the voice we need. Not academics, not lawyers, though they're important too. We need people who've lived it and survived it. Will you think about it? I said yes without thinking about it. On the plane home, I stared out the window at the clouds and thought about paths not taken. What if I hadn't opened that folder? What if I'd stayed quiet at the retirement party? What if I'd signed the papers and moved meekly into the senior facility Lisa had chosen? I'd be smaller, safer maybe, but smaller. And I was done being small. 4 months after the retirement party, on a cold October morning, I found an envelope in my mailbox, handwritten, Lisa's familiar cursive. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter, 6 pages, front and back. Dear Mom, I've started this letter 100 times and thrown it away 100 times. I don't know how to say what needs to be said, but my therapist says I need to try, so here I am trying. First, I'm sorry, not I'm sorry you were hurt, which is what I've been saying, and not I'm sorry you misunderstood, which is what Derek keeps saying. I'm sorry for what I did, for forging your signature, for planning to sell your house without your consent, for treating you like a problem to be managed instead of a person to be respected. I'm sorry for years before that, too, for taking your money and never asking if you could afford it, for assuming you'd always be available to watch the kids, for rolling my eyes when you tried to set boundaries, for making you feel like you had to earn my love instead of just receiving it as your right as my mother. I've been in therapy 3 times a week since the retirement party. Dr. Williams specializes in family dynamics and narcissistic behavior patterns. That's what she called my relationship with you. Narcissistic. I fought her on that for weeks. I'm not a narcissist. I love you. How could I be narcissistic? But she made me look at my behavior, not my intentions. And when I looked honestly, I saw it. I saw how I'd centered myself in every interaction. My needs, my problems, my solutions. I never once asked what you wanted. I just assumed I knew better. Derek and I are separated. That's probably not a surprise. When I started seeing clearly what I'd done to you, I started seeing clearly what he'd been encouraging. He's the one who suggested forging your signature. He's the one who found the senior facility. He told me you'd thank us eventually, that you were too old to make good decisions for yourself. I should have pushed back. I should have defended you. Instead, I agreed, because it was easier, because it benefited me financially, because some part of me had stopped seeing you as fully human. I don't know how to live with that, Mom. I don't know how to live with knowing I became the kind of person who would do that to their own mother. Emma comes to see me every week. She tells me about your garden, your book club, your new friends. She says you seem happier than you've been in years. That kills me. You're happier without me in your life. But I'm also glad. You deserve happiness. You deserved it all along. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. Dr. Williams says I need to stop centering myself, so I'm not going to make this about what I need from you. I'm writing to say, I see you now. I see what I did. I see the years of pain I caused, and I'm working to become someone who would never do that again. I've started volunteering at a women's shelter. I help residents navigate legal issues when family members try to take advantage of them. I see my own behavior reflected in their stories, and it's devastating every single time. But Dr. Williams says this is part of the work, sitting with the devastation instead of running from it. I don't know if we'll ever have a relationship again. I don't know if you'll ever be able to trust me, but I want you to know I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I'm trying to be better. Not for you, though I hope it matters to you, but because I can't stand being who I was. Emma asked if she could give you my new address. I said yes, but only if you want it. No pressure, no expectations. I'm learning to live without expectations. I love you, Mom. I've always loved you. I just didn't know how to love you correctly. I'm learning now. Lisa. I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat at my kitchen table and cried. Not the angry tears of betrayal, not the sad tears of loss. Something more complicated. Relief, grief, cautious hope. I didn't respond right away. I tucked the letter in my desk drawer and sat with it for a week. In that week, I talked to Janet, to Emma, to Grace from the garden, to Dr. Williams, who Lisa had given permission to speak with me. She's doing the work, Dr. Williams said. Real work, not performative work. She's in a lot of pain, which is appropriate, but she's not running from it. Does that mean I should forgive her? I asked. That's not for me to say. Forgiveness is personal, but I can say this. She's becoming capable of having a healthier relationship. Whether you want that relationship is entirely up to you. On day 8, I wrote back, not a long letter, just this. Dear Lisa, thank you for your letter. Thank you for being honest. I'm not ready to rebuild our relationship yet, but I'm willing to start with small steps. Coffee once a month, maybe. In public with no discussion of money or housing or future plans. Just 2 people learning to talk to each other again. If you're willing to do that at my pace without pushing, then yes, I'd like Emma to give me your address. This is not forgiveness yet. This is possibility. Mom. I mailed it and waited. 3 days later, my phone rang. Lisa's number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Mom. Her voice was thick with tears. Thank you. Yes to coffee. Yes to your pace. Yes to whatever you need. Just thank you. We didn't talk long. It was awkward, careful, like learning a language we'd once known but had forgotten. But it was a start. By the following spring, 1 year after the retirement party, my life looked completely different. I'd become a spokesperson for the ALRP Foundation, traveling to conferences, speaking at senior centers, helping craft policy recommendations for protecting elders from financial exploitation. The work was exhausting and fulfilling in equal measure. More importantly, I'd helped start a local support group for people dealing with similar family situations. We met once a week in the community center, a circle of folding chairs, coffee and paper cups, and stories that broke your heart and rebuilt it simultaneously. There was Robert, whose daughter had stolen his disability checks for 3 years. Maria, whose son had convinced her to co-sign loans he never intended to repay. James, whose entire family had stopped speaking to him when he refused to fund his grandson's luxury wedding. Each story was different. Each story was the same. We didn't solve anyone's problems, but we witnessed them. We said, "I believe you, and you deserve better, and it's not your fault." And slowly, people began to heal. Emma graduated high school that spring. She'd gotten into the University of Minnesota planning to study social work. When I asked why, she said, "Because of you, Grandma. Because I saw what it looks like when someone stands up for themselves, and I want to help other people do that too." She was living with me now. Lisa and Derek's divorce had been finalized, and Emma had chosen to stay in Minneapolis rather than move with her mother to Lisa's new apartment across town. I'd worried about her being in the middle, but she'd been clear. "I love Mom, but I need space from her right now. She's still figuring herself out." Lisa and I had coffee once a month, exactly as I'd proposed. It was still careful, still sometimes painful, but there were moments of genuine connection, moments where I saw glimpses of the daughter I remembered, before entitlement and resentment had warped our relationship. In June, she did something that surprised me. She showed up at my monthly support group. "I'm not here as your daughter," she said to the circle. "I'm here as someone who committed elder financial abuse against her own mother. I want to tell you what I did, why I did it, and how I'm trying to change. Because if my story helps even one person recognize their own behavior, maybe something good can come from the harm I caused." She spoke for 20 minutes, honest, raw, taking full responsibility. When she finished, the group was silent. Then Robert, the man whose daughter had stolen his disability checks, spoke up. "That took courage. Thank you." Others nodded. Not forgiveness, exactly, but acknowledgement. That change was possible. After the meeting, Lisa and I walked to the parking lot together. "That was hard," she said. "I know. I'm proud of you for doing it anyway." She looked at me, surprised. "You're proud of me?" "I'm proud of who you're becoming. Not who you were, but yes, I'm proud." We stood there in the spring evening, the streetlights just coming on, and for the first time in years, the silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. That summer, I did something I'd dreamed about since I was young. I booked a trip to Ireland. Just me, 2 weeks, a backpack, and a rough itinerary. Emma helped me plan it, finding small bed and breakfasts, marking hiking trails on a map, teaching me how to use international data on my phone. "Are you scared?" she asked the night before I left. "Terrified. I've never traveled alone. Your grandfather always handled the logistics." "You handled a public confrontation with your own daughter on live TV. I think you can handle Dublin." She was right. Ireland was everything I'd imagined, and nothing like I expected. The green was greener. The people were warmer. I got lost in Cork, made friends with a sheep farmer in Galway, climbed to the top of a tower in Kilkenny, and cried at the view. One afternoon, sitting in a pub in a village too small to have a name on my map, I struck up a conversation with the bartender, an older man named Patrick. "First time in Ireland?" First time traveling alone, I admitted. Ah, that's brave. What made you do it? I thought about how to answer. Finally, I spent 62 years living for other people. I decided it was time to live for myself. Patrick poured me a Guinness, refusing payment. That deserves a proper celebration. Welcome to the rest of your life, love. Welcome to the rest of your life. I took a photo of myself in that pub, Guinness raised, sun streaming through the window, and sent it to Emma. Her response was immediate. "Grandma, look at you. You're glowing." She was right. I could see it in the photo, not the tired, diminished woman from the retirement party photo. Someone new, someone free. 2 years after the retirement party, Roosevelt High School asked me to come back as a guest speaker for their career day. I almost said no, walking back into that building, facing those classrooms where I'd spent so much of my life. Felt like too much. But Susan, the principal, persisted. "Margaret, these kids need to hear from you, not about English literature, about resilience, about standing up for yourself, about becoming who you're meant to be." So I went. The auditorium was packed. Current students, former students, teachers, even some parents who'd heard about my story. I stood at the podium where I'd delivered my truth 2 years earlier and looked out at the crowd. "When I retired," I began, "I thought my life was over. I thought the best parts were behind me, and what remained was just existing, being grateful for what I'd had, not making trouble, accepting whatever came next." I paused, letting them settle. I was wrong. The best parts of my life started the day I decided I deserved respect. Not someday, not when I'd earned it by sacrificing enough, but right then, at 62, exactly as I was. I told them about the forged documents, about the confrontation, about the terrifying freedom of choosing myself, but I also told them about what came after: the garden, the travel, the advocacy work, the slow, painful rebuilding of a relationship with my daughter. "Here's what I want you to understand," I said to the teenagers in the front row. "You don't have to wait until you're 62 to learn this lesson. You don't have to give away 37 years of your life before you realize your worth isn't determined by how useful you are to other people." A girl in the third row raised her hand. "But isn't it selfish, putting yourself first?" That's what I believed for decades, and believing that nearly destroyed me. Here's what I know now. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't love others well if you don't love yourself first. And setting boundaries isn't cruelty. It's honesty. After the speech, students lined up to talk to me. Some wanted advice on family issues. Others just wanted to say thank you. One young man, quiet and serious, waited until everyone else had left. "Ms. Chen, I'm Carlos. You taught my mom 20 years ago. She always talks about how you changed her life." "What's your mom's name?" "Rosa Martinez." I remembered. Rosa had come into my class barely speaking English, struggling in every subject. We'd worked together after school for 2 years. She'd graduated, gone to community college, become a nurse. "How is she?" "She's good. She wanted me to give you this." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a card and a check. The card read, "Ms. Chen, I heard what happened, and I heard how you stood up for yourself. You taught me to use my voice. I'm so glad you finally used yours. The check is a donation for whatever advocacy work you're doing. You gave me everything. Let me give back a little." The check was for $5,000. I tried to hand it back to Carlos. "I can't accept this." "She knew you'd say that. She told me to tell you. You taught me I deserved better. Now let me help you help other people learn the same thing." I folded the check carefully and put it in my purse. "Tell your mother thank you. and tell her I'm proud of her. That donation became the seed money for something bigger. By the end of the year, with help from Janet, the ACORP Foundation, and a group of former students who'd gone into law and social work, we'd established a small foundation, Second Acts, supporting elder independence and dignity. We offered free legal consultations for seniors facing family financial exploitation. We ran support groups. We provided small grants to help people escape abusive living situations or pay for therapy. It wasn't huge, but it was something, and it turned my pain into purpose. 3 years after the retirement party, Emma got engaged to a young woman named Sarah she'd met at college. They were both 21, still in school, brilliantly in love in that fearless way only the very young can manage. Emma called me first. "Grandma, we're getting married next summer. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. And I need you to know, Mom's invited. Is that okay?" My stomach clenched. Lisa and I had rebuilt something fragile. We had coffee every 2 weeks now instead of once a month. We could talk about shallow things, safe things. But weddings weren't safe. Weddings brought up everything. "Honey, it's your wedding. Invite whoever you want." That's not what I asked. I asked if you're okay with it. I thought about it honestly. I'm nervous, but I'm okay. Your mom and I are in a better place than we were. We're not where we used to be, but we're somewhere. That's all I needed to hear. The wedding was in June, in a small garden venue outside the city. 60 people, white chairs on green grass, wildflowers everywhere. I wore a dress I'd bought specifically for the occasion. Pale blue, elegant, comfortable. Emma had helped me pick it out, overruling my initial choice of something beige and forgettable. "Grandma, you're not invisible. Stop dressing like you want to be." Lisa arrived with her new partner, a kind man named Jeff, who worked as a carpenter. She looked different, softer maybe, less polished but more genuine. We saw each other across the garden, and for a moment neither of us moved. Then she walked over. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Lisa. You look beautiful. So do you." Awkward silence. Then, "Can we talk for a minute, before the ceremony?" We walked to a quiet corner of the garden. Lisa twisted her hands together, nervous. "I know we've been rebuilding, and I know it's slow, but I need to say something I haven't said yet." I waited. "I'm grateful for what you did, for stopping me. I was turning into someone I hated, and I couldn't see it. You held up a mirror, and it was the hardest thing anyone's ever done for me. But it was also the most loving." My throat tightened. "If you hadn't stopped me at the retirement party, if you'd just signed the papers and gone along with it, I'd be worse now. I'd have kept taking. I'd have destroyed our relationship completely. You saved me from myself, even though it cost you so much. Lisa, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it yet. Maybe I never will. But I need you to know, I see what you did, and I'm grateful." I looked at my daughter, 41 now, gray starting at her temples, lines around her eyes. Not the angry woman from the retirement party. Not the entitled child who'd forged my signature. Someone new. Someone still becoming. "I'm proud of you," I said quietly. "For doing the work, for changing. That takes courage. I learned from the best." The ceremony started. Emma and Sarah exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising partnership and respect and unwavering support. When they kissed, the whole garden erupted in cheers. At the reception, during the mother-daughter dance, Emma pulled me onto the floor alongside Lisa. "I want both my mothers up here," she declared to the crowd. So Lisa and I stood on either side of Emma, the three of us swaying to some pop song I didn't know, and for the first time in years, it felt almost normal. Not perfect, not healed, but possible. After the dance, Lisa and I ended up at the dessert table together. "Emma's happy," Lisa said. "She is. You raised a good human." "We raised a good human. You did most of the work." I looked at her sharply, waiting for the old resentment to flare. But it didn't come. "Thank you for saying that," I said instead. We ate cake in companionable silence, watching Emma and Sarah dance, watching the life they were building together. "Mom," Lisa's voice was tentative, "do you think someday we might get to a place where we can be more than careful acquaintances?" I thought about it honestly. "I don't know. I hope so. But it has to be real, Lisa. Not the old dynamic where I give and you take. Something equal." "I know. I'm learning what equal looks like." She set down her cake plate. "Jeff and I are getting married next year. Small ceremony just like this. I'd like you to be there. Not because you're obligated, but because I want you there. I'll think about it. That's more than I deserve. Thank you." As the evening wound down, I found myself sitting on a bench at the edge of the garden, watching fireflies rise from the grass. Emma came and sat beside me, still in her wedding dress, Sarah's lipstick on her collar. "Best day ever," she sighed contentedly. "It was beautiful, honey. You were beautiful. I saw you and Mom dancing together. That meant everything to me, Grandma. We're trying, both of us." Emma leaned her head on my shoulder. "You taught me something important. You taught me that love doesn't mean accepting bad treatment, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. I'm going to remember that in my marriage, with Sarah, with our future kids if we have them, with everyone. That's all I ever wanted, for you to know your worth. I do, because you showed me." We sat in the twilight, grandmother and granddaughter, watching the fireflies dance, and I thought about the journey I'd taken, from that terrible morning 3 years ago to this perfect evening, from victimhood to agency, from silence to voice. It hadn't been easy. It still wasn't easy, but it was real, and real was better than comfortable any day. I'm 67 now. My hair is completely gray, and I've stopped coloring it. I like the silver. It feels earned. The foundation has grown beyond anything I imagined. We have 3 full-time staff, 50 volunteers, and we've helped over 800 families navigate elder financial abuse situations. The work is heartbreaking and hopeful in turns. I still garden with Grace 3 mornings a week. My knees complain, but I ignore them. There's something sacred about putting your hands in dirt and growing food that feeds people. I've taken 4 more international trips: Scotland, Italy, Japan, and most recently, Peru, where I hiked part of the Inca Trail and felt like I was 25 again, minus the working joints. Lisa and I have coffee every week now. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's still hard. She's remarried to Jeff, and they're good together. They have a baby on the way, my 2nd grandchild. Lisa asked me to be in the delivery room. I said yes. Emma finished her master's in social work and now works for our foundation. She and Sarah bought a house 2 blocks from mine. I see them constantly, and I love it. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that morning 5 years ago, the forged documents, the betrayal, the moment I decided enough was enough. I don't regret it. Not for a second, because that moment was the beginning of everything that came after. The advocacy work, the travel, the rebuilt relationship with my daughter, the deepened relationship with my granddaughter, the discovery that 62 wasn't the end of my life, but the beginning of a new chapter. Last month, I got a letter from a woman in Oregon. She'd seen my Today Show appearance years ago, and had just left her daughter's house where she'd been living and being financially exploited. "I'm 71, she wrote. "I thought it was too late to start over, but you did it at 62, so I'm doing it at 71. I just signed a lease on my own apartment. I got a part-time job at the library. I'm scared, but I'm free. Thank you for showing me it was possible. I keep that letter in my desk drawer, next to Tom's old love letter. They remind me of who I was and who I've become. If you're listening to this story, maybe you see yourself in it. Maybe you have an adult child who treats you like an ATM. Maybe you've sacrificed so much for so long that you've forgotten you're allowed to want things for yourself. Maybe you're scared that if you set boundaries, you'll lose the people you love. I understand that fear. I lived in that fear for 12 years. But here's what I learned. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. The people who don't respect your boundaries don't actually love you. They love what you provide. And that's a painful truth, but it's also a liberating one. You deserve respect. Not someday, not when you've earned it by sacrificing enough, but right now, exactly as you are. You deserve to have your own life, your own dreams, your own money, your own space. You deserve to say no without guilt. You deserve to be treated like a person, not a resource. It's not too late. Whether you're 55 or 75, it's not too late to choose yourself. Will it be hard? Yes. Will it cost you? Maybe. Will you lose relationships? Possibly. But you'll gain something more important, yourself. I'm 67 years old. I'm happier now than I was at 27 or 47, because now I know who I am without the weight of other people's expectations. If you're in a situation like mine was, please reach out for help. Talk to a lawyer, a therapist, a trusted friend. Contact organizations like the AARP Foundation or your local area agency on aging. You don't have to do this alone. And if you're someone who recognizes their own behavior in my daughter's story, please get help too. It's never too late to change, to take responsibility, to become someone who builds relationships on respect instead of exploitation. To everyone who's listened to my story, thank you. Thank you for being here, for bearing witness, for caring about an old teacher from Minneapolis who finally found her voice. If this story resonated with you, please share it. Please leave a comment telling me your story. You're not alone in this. None of us are alone. And remember, you deserve better. You always have, and it's never too late to claim it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for considering that maybe, just maybe, you deserve to put yourself first, too. The rest of your life is waiting. Welcome to it.